The objective is to find the zeros of a function. If you have a function that you graph and it looks something like this, you're looking for the zeros, such as this, 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 and this, where they cross the y-axis. You do not have to graph these functions today, but you do have to find the zeros. Today will be just a one simple function, tomorrow is a two-part function, and then Wednesday is a more difficult two-part function. A practice test on Thursday and then the real test on Friday. Here's an example. The function is x squared plus 7x equals, or plus 12 equals 0. And it can be written like this. The function can be written as f of x equals x squared plus 7x plus 12. You have to find the zeros, and the way you do it is to factor the equation out. So you need to have two sets of quantities like this, if it is possible. And then from before, what we did was we multiplied things out. For example, if I had this, x plus 2, x minus 5. If I were to multiply this out, I do these two items first to get x squared, and then these two items to get minus 5x. Then these two items to get plus 2x, and then these two items to get minus 10. Then you simplify your middle terms. Negative 5x plus 2x is negative 3x. And this is where it comes from. When you multiply two quantities together like that, you end up with this. What we're doing is going backwards. We have to figure out what are the two quantities that we need in order to get that. So over here is the function again. And you know that in order to get x squared here, you would have to have an x and an x. Next, you must understand the signs. And the signs are here. You have plus plus. There is a chart you can use to understand what the signs will be in the quantities if you have the certain two signs in the function. Over here on this side, here is the chart. In the function, you have these two signs. And then in your quantities, you will have these two signs. If in the function you have plus plus, then your quantities will be plus plus. If the function is minus plus, then you're going to have minus minus in your quantities. If you have minus minus in the function, you're going to have plus minus in the quantities. And if you have plus minus in the function, then you're going to have plus minus in the quantities. Know this chart. You must remember it. You cannot use a cheat sheet on the test. It is not much to ask for you to remember this chart. So we go back over here. What two signs will show up in the quantities? Plus plus. Now the last part is to find two numbers that will multiply to get this, but they will add to get this. If you have a plus sign here and a plus sign there, then all of your factors will be positive. If you were to have a minus sign here and then a plus sign there, that means they both have to be negative. You multiply two negatives together to get a positive. In this case, everything is positive. So you start with 12. And you come up with all of the numbers that will multiply to get 12. 1 times 12. 2 times 6. 3 times 4. Those are all of the pairs of numbers that you can multiply to get 12. If you don't know these, you have to sit there with a calculator and put in 12 and divide by 2. If it comes out even, that works. Divide by 3. If it comes out even, it works. 4, yes. Put in 5, no, it's a decimal. 6 works, yes. 7, no, and so forth. But if you know basic math, this will be very simple. Once you get the pairs generated, you have to pick the pair that will add to give you this number. What pair of numbers will add to give you 7? 3 and 4. So you have 3 and 4. Now you have the two quantities that you need in order to multiply out to get back to this. But the way that you find the zeros of the function is to do this. You set each pair, each quantity equal to 0. X plus 3 equals 0 and x plus 4 equals 0. To solve it, you have to get x by itself. So your first move is to move the constant over to the right, change the sign. And there's nothing left to do. Same thing over here. Move the constant to the right. There is nothing left to do. So your zeros for the function are -3, -4. This one you have plus plus again. Remember, it can be written as f of x equals x squared plus 11x plus 24. If you want to break it up into two quantities like this, you must know that to get x squared, you're going to have an x times x at some point. The signs in the function are plus plus. Therefore, the signs in the breakdown of it should be what? Plus plus. Next, you need two numbers that multiply to get 24 and add to get 11. Here is 24. 1 and 24. 2 and 12. 3 and 8. 4 and 6. Which pair of numbers will add to get 11? 3 and 8. So now we have the quantity. We want to set each one of those equal to 0. So x plus 3 equals 0 and x plus 8 equals 0. Move your constant to the right, change the sign in each case, and you come back with zeros that are -3, -8. Here's the next example. You have x squared plus 1, x plus 0. It can also be written as f of x equals x squared plus x plus 0. These are computer-generated problems, and the computer is not putting just a blank space for the 1x. You know that you do not write 1x, so when you go to solve it, or to put an answer down that has an x in it, you do not put a 1 next to it. Okay, so now we want to break this up into two quantities. So we have this and this. You know that you're going to have an x and an x. You have 0, and you want two numbers that multiply to get 0 but add to get 1. Two numbers that multiply to get 0 and add to get 1 are what? 0 and 1. So when I set both of these equal to 0 and solve, I know that if I move this 0 to the right, it doesn't change anything. 0 plus 0, 0 minus 0 is still 0. So it's just x equals 0. And in this case over here, you would have x equals -1. So your zeros are 0 and -1. Again, do not be confused by the name of what we're finding. They are called zeros because it's where it crosses the x-axis, and y equals 0 in each case. That's why they're called zeros. 0 is not the answer to every problem. For this problem, it's going to factor out to be this: x plus 9, x plus 4. And if you do x plus 9 equals 0 and x plus 4 equals 0, you'll have x equals -9, x equals -4. So your zeros are -9, -4. Remember that you can write this as f of x equals x squared minus 6x minus 40. And if you're going to factor this out, you know you're going to have an x here and here, because when you multiply them, you get x squared. But your signs in the function are minus minus. According to the chart that I gave you, which you should use for practice and homework, the signs should be plus minus in your quantities. That means that you need two numbers that multiply to get -40, and they add to get -6. If you're going to multiply two numbers together and get a negative, it means that one of them must be negative, the other one positive. So here are the possibilities for -40. For -40, you could have -140. Or you could have +1, -40. 2, -20, -2, 20. 3 does not go into 40. 4 does. 4 times a -10 and -4 times 10. 5 goes into 40. 5 times -8, -5 times 8. 6 does not go in. 7 does not. 8 does, but we've already taken care of that, so we're right back to where we started. You must find the pair of numbers that add to give you -6. At no time after you create this list here should you ever choose this and put that in the quantities, because 10 plus a -4 is +6, not -6. So this isn't it. 4 and -10 are it. You have a +4, which means it will go here with the plus sign, and you have a -10, which means you go here. That -10 is your -10. Now you must set each of those equal to 0. So x plus 4 equals 0, x minus 10 equals 0. Move your constant to the right, change the sign. Constant to the right, change the sign. -4 and 10 are the zeros of that function. Remember, you can rewrite this as f of x equals x squared minus 2x minus 80. You need two quantities, each with an x in it. And you can set it equal to 0, but as part of our work, if you do or you don't, it's not going to matter. You're still going to get the same answer. It's just a technical issue there. When you're solving a function, you set it equal to 0, so forth and so on. But right now, we need the signs, and it's minus minus in the problem, so it must be plus minus here. This is where being fluent with basic math and basic numbers comes in very handy. You need two numbers that multiply to get a negative 80. And yet, when you add them together, you get a negative 2. So in reality, the difference of the absolute value of those two numbers is just 2. So you're looking for two numbers that are close together that multiply to get a negative 80 and add to get a negative 2. Common sense tells us that negative 8 times 10 or positive 8 times negative 10 is going to be this, because the difference, just the absolute value of those two numbers, and if you forgot absolute value, it means just the positive version of that item. 8 and 10, the difference is 2. If I add negative 8 and 10, I get a positive 2. That's not what I need. 8 plus a negative 10 is negative 2. So I need a plus 8 and a minus 10. When I do that, I can set both of those quantities equal to 0. X plus 8 equals 0, and x minus 10 equals 0. So x equals negative 8, x equals 10. So negative 8, 10 are your zeros.